let's give it one more minute and then we'll get rolling. Okay, well, thanks for tuning in, guys. This is a little impromptu. I normally like to give a day or two notice when I'm doing a Facebook Live, but had a very interesting day yesterday. Want to talk about that and how it might pertain to future events and doing some future stuff. And I will cut to the chase on one thing that I know a lot of you guys are very interested in, and that is the 2021 Sea-Doos. That's really exciting stuff, so I'm just going to tell you right now that the cat's out of the bag. Sea-Doos actually already sent a mailer with that information, and a lot of dealers have already leaked that out as well, and that it is going to be the evening of September 10th. I believe that is September 10th is a Thursday. All right, I checked the calendar. So Thursday night, I believe it's might be 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Interestingly enough, is at the exact same time that's happening, I'm going to be test riding the new units. So, I'm really hoping to have an article up at the exact same time. Chances are I will have, I will probably have it late, probably a couple hours late, just because I will literally be on my traveling laptop and hammering out the article as fast as I humanly can. So I'll be able to tease a little bit of my experience on the new units, but for the most part, it's just going to be an overview. It's not a review, it's an overview. Just like we did with the 2021 Yamaha rollout, it's an overview. It'll be a lot of the press photos and regurgitating a lot of the, just a lot of the talking points in the press release material. Again, it's an overview. So reviews come later. As long as I rack up some seat time and can get the video put together and all that jazz. So I know I had like some people like, oh, Kevin's just a shill. He's just regurgitating what Yamaha was saying for the 2021s. Yes, you're correct, because it was an overview of the 2021s. The reviews come later. So anyhow, so yeah, September 10th, the evening of September 10th. I'm going to be there. I know Jerry Gass is going to be there. There's going to be a couple other guys who are going to be there. And we're going to try to get that content out simultaneously as the reveal happens. It's going to be a little tough. I'm pretty good at making sure that we have it right on time. But because I will literally be at the press event when that's going on, it might be something like midnight by the time I get the article done, and it's going to be full of spelling errors and bad punctuation because I'm going to be hammering it out as fast as I can. But that's the big thing. When it comes to reviews, I'm going to have about 2 days of seat time on the new 21s. I can't really talk about what models they are. Dang. But it, it's enough to be really excited about it, and I think we're gonna have a hell of a showdown next year between Sea-Doo and Yamaha, especially when it comes to musclecraft. There's a lot to be excited about, and everything that I know in regards to the performance aftermarket, Sea-Doo's really, I mean, Yamaha went for the jugular this year. There's a lot of people who are just looking at pictures and they haven't seen my review yet, and Jerry really hasn't done a review specifically on the GP. Yeah, he did his post, and he threw up a lot of like, hey, listen, this is what it does, and he likes it, but he hasn't really gone deeper. I'm going to dedicate a whole article on and a video on the GP, and that's coming out, okay, it should be in about 2 weeks, maybe 20 days, because, and I'll get into what's coming up next in our schedule of videos, but there's a lot to be really stoked on the GP, and Sea-Doo knows this, and what Sea-Doo's coming to bat with is pretty cool. Yeah, pretty cool. So I can't leak it because I want to be invited to these things. But everything that I've been told, it's really bitching. So yeah, be excited. You performance musclecraft guys, start getting excited. Anyway, so yeah, that's Sea-Doo for next month. It's happening in about, a week and a half. Yeah, about a week and a half. So yeah, be stoked. Get all antsy and excited and freak out because it's bitching. So what's coming up next? What are we doing video-wise and content-wise? So I'm doing this a little backwards, but what the heck? I thought it'd be fun. September 1st, we are going to be publishing our very, very cool, very exclusive review, because we got let me back up. We got a world-class exclusive. We got a really neat exclusive. I did not go down to Australia and ride it myself, but one of our contributors, who is one of the best, he actually comes from the automotive industry, is Josh Dowling. And Josh has done three or four videos for us before. Very detailed. He's very comparison minded. He likes to, stack up things comparatively, and ultimately most manufacturers do not like that in an article. If you review a product and say, oh, this is how it stacks up against a Sea-Doo or a Cowie or a Yamaha, they just kind of want it to stand up on its own. In fact, Yamaha kind of blurred the lines when they let me have the Superjet, because they were like, listen, it's hard to talk about the Superjet and not compare it to the SXR 1500, especially when it comes to numbers, especially when it comes to weight and horsepower and speed and all the different attributes. And we would just prefer that you don't name drop the Cowie. You can talk about the competition, just don't name drop the Cowie. And I'm like, ugh, okay, fine. You got to kind of have to play by their rules. So I danced around it and was like, the competition has this and the competition does that. And I even talked about the old Superjet. So I made it comparative to the old, the old Superjet, the old 701. And try to say, hey, here's how the 2021 Superjet fits in between the old Superjet and the current four-stroke competitor stand-up. So anyhow, so that's kind of how you have to play ball. With Josh Dowling's articles, typically he likes to make very clean-cut comparisons. That would be ideal. But for us, and quite frankly, maintaining relationships, We have to review a product on its own merits. In this case, because the machine we got to ride is a modified machine, we are able to make all the comparisons we want. And what we got to ride and what Josh was able to do was that he went out to Brisbane Kawasaki and he got to ride K-Speed's STX 310 LX. And what K-Speed did was that they took a standard STX 160 LX, gutted it, and put all the running gear of a 310X in it. Okay, or an R. They're identical. And that includes the pump shoe. They had to modify the pump shoe, but pump. So it's the big 160 millimeter pump, the supercharged TVS Eaton supercharged 1.5 liter, making 310 horsepower. ECU, obviously, airbox is different. Gas tank remains the same, and K-Speed also changed out the dash. And they have the electric trim and stuff, so they had to modify the handlebars. And that ski in that setup goes 80 miles an hour. It's just as is. And now if they tuned it and put an aftermarket ride plate, aftermarket intake grate, I think it's a 1.5 degree nozzle wedge, it would go way into the 80s. It's ape. That thing is freaking ape. And we got to ride it, and we have like an 11-minute video of us riding it. And we got to ride it in some kind of rough, choppy ocean chop. I mean, it wasn't gnarly. It wasn't like 4 foot, just wow, wow, wow. But I mean, it was pretty rough. So we weren't able to replicate the 80 mile an hour claim, but we were able to scare the pants off of frickin' Josh. So he came back, he's like, dude, this thing will churn your hair white. It's really crazy. So we were able to ride it. We were able to do a whole big article on it. The video comes out on Tuesday. So that's coming out Tuesday with the article and the video. And then 2 weeks after that, actually it's going to be less than 2 weeks, probably about 10 days after that, will be the GP 1800R SVHO. All right. That, the 2021 GP 1800R SVHO, that comes out about 10 days later. So it should be, let's see here. All right, so the first is on Tuesday. Yeah, it will probably be right in the dead center of September. I'm looking at the calendar on the wall. So it'll be almost a week after the Sea-Doo release. So we should have really good stuff every week, just boom, 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 boom. Because we'll have the K-Speed STX 310 2021 Sea-Doos GP 1800R SVHO review, and then the week after that, I don't know. We'll figure something out. But here's where it gets a little funny. I have like 5 Yamaha reviews that I gotta get ready and edited and all ready to rock. Ironically enough, 2 of them just so happen to be 2020s that just have been pushed back and pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And the scripts themselves are literally making fun of the fact that you can't buy these new in dealers because they're all sold out. And one of them is a VX. And I mean, the VX has been completely redesigned. The top deck has. So it's super late to the party. I'm like, well, crap. We got to get it out. I'm not going to not publish it. It's just going to be making fun of itself. So hopefully it helps out with the used market. And people going, oh, okay, cool. If I'm looking for a used one, I'll pay attention to that review. The EX, we have a EX Sport review. Thankfully, that hasn't changed mechanically at all, just colors. So we're able to go, well, listen, everything that we're reviewing here is applicable because it hasn't changed, and just colors. So everything we say here works for 2021. For the VX review, I think it's a VX Deluxe. We're just late on that one. So sorry, it's still going out. And then we also have another one of Josh's reviews, because he did a twofer when he was down there visiting K-Speed. We walked through taking a stock 310R and putting on a K-Speed Stage 1 kit. So pump wedge, intake grate, ECU flash, and going 77 or 78 miles an hour with just 3 parts on an Ultra. So that's something really cool too. That I don't know if I want to drop that in September. I kind of want to keep it for October. Then I got to get these Yamaha videos out too. And then I'm going to have, oh my gosh, I'm going to have reviews on at least 2 of the new 2021 Sea-Doos. So that's another thing. And one of them is going to just, God, I can't talk about it. Damn it. But one of them is going to be like people screaming at me like, you need to get this out right now. So that might be the end of September, is that one. I might have to bump that Sea-Doo review to the end early, because that one is going to be crap. I got to get that one out. Oh, geez. Yeah, I'm going to have to pour all the gas I can on that fire, because we got to get that one Sea-Doo review out. Especially as, yeah, I can't wait on that one. Jeez. Okay, well, September's going to be ape. September's going to be really tough for me, but oh my gosh, I have the biggest freaking event. I got a giant event in September for the other magazine too. I don't know how I'm going to make this one work. All right, guys, sorry I'm rambling, but I got a lot of work ahead of me, and we have a lot of really, really good content coming out. So let's talk about what the heck I did yesterday. All right. So, stupid Bluetooth mouse. All right. So, 2021 FX hasn't changed. Just hasn't changed. Oh, yeah. I'm thinking 2022. 22, we'll see some changes. But I can't talk about them. Sorry. I can't talk about them, but there's going to be a couple changes to the 2022 FXs. Basically, if you see something that you really like on the VXs this year, wait a year. Is that a good enough hint? All right, so moving on. What did I do yesterday? Well, I've been riding jet skis since it was, back when it was cool to call them all jet skis. And people with Wave Runners and Hondas and Sea-Doos didn't get mad if you called it a jet ski. That's the gray in my beard and in my hair. Anyway, but anyhow, yeah, I grew up riding these things. My dad had a rental business in the 80s, and we were on 440s and 550s. And I remember when he got the first Wave Runner, the first 500. And we were out there riding wave runners and wave jammers with the stupid gooseneck. I don't know if you remember the wave jammer. Yeah, so, I mean, I've racked up a lot of miles and racked up a lot of hours. And I mean, some of you guys put on crazy hours, and God bless you. You're freaking champs. I love that stuff. Love that stuff. And I've tried my hand at a lot of different kind of racing. I've done some buoy racing, not very good. Stand-up, I've never done stand-up racing because I suck at stand-ups compared to the guys who race. I found that I really enjoyed, at the time, I really enjoyed offshore endurance. Did a lot of Catalina, Long Beach Catalina race. I've done probably 6-7 times. 7? No, it's 6 times. I've raced it 6 times. And I've done the Dana Point to Oceanside and back a couple times. And I did the big Oakley race on Sacramento River. That was fun. I did good on that one. That was also the fastest I ever went in an offshore endurance race. It was 77. And you know, I like the long offshore endurance stuff. I think it's a test of the machine. I think it's a test of the rider themselves. It fatigues both because there's a challenge there, and then it's like, hey, listen, can the ski hold together for X amount of hours? I've done the Mark Hahn twice. And the Mark Hahn, for those who do not know, the Mark Hahn is the longest continual race in the world. It's 300 miles in one day, and it's ideally 30 10-mile laps around Lake Havasu. It's a big circuit. It's a big square. It's kind of an oblong square, but a big lap around Lake Havasu. First time I did it, I grenaded after one lap. I mean, just blew my ski apart. You know, if you're gonna go big, go big. My second time, I went pretty close to box stock, and that was, believe it or not, on a turbo Honda, and finished the race. When the winner crosses the finish line, everyone ends. And so I think we had completed 26 laps. I was way in the back. I mean, we got third in stock class, or third in manufacturer stock class. And that was fine. That was good. It was really my first foray. I got the tar beaten out of me on that one. That lap or that year, the California side of the race was just a washing machine, and but then it would even out on the Arizona side, and then it would just get rough, and you go smooth, rough, smooth, rough, smooth, rough, and it just beats you to death, just wears you out. But the hardest part about the Mark Hahn, in my opinion, is the pitting process. And the pitting process is you got to have a team on the beach all ready for you. They back a trailer into the water, a quad or a side-by-side. They got to hitch you up. You pull up on and it can't be a regular jet ski trailer. It's got to be like one of these totes. And you got to hook up, latch on. They pull you 30 feet out of the water. You refuel. You got to refuel as fast as you can. Swap a rider if you're not doing an Ironman, and then get you back in, and there you go again. There's guys who are pitting in like 35 seconds or 45 seconds or some stupid, ridiculous number. They got it all scienced out. All right, we were taking like 2 minutes to pit, and 2 or 3 minutes to pit, and I just was dragging. I'll admit it. I was really, I'm no top athlete, so what are you gonna do? But it was a fun race, and I was glad I did it. But boy, and then you start doing the math, and you're like, it's $20,000 to do this with gear and crew and all the things that go into doing the Mark Hahn. Dude, you're in it for so much money and so much equipment, and then putting people in hotel rooms and feeding them and everything that goes involved. So I emotionally had a problem with the Mark Hahn just on getting people into that. A novice can't say, I'm going to try my hand at the Mark Hahn. The guy's got to drop a bunch of cash on it. So that little idea just kind of festered in the back of my head for decades. Well, I've always been looking for a longer race or a longer distance, a more trying. I don't know if you could be more trying, because the Mark Hahn is really pretty freaking hard. And one that was super cost effective. And I started mapping out this river route. And how many different ways we could go, and what's the distance, and blah, 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 blah. And I started coming up with these different routes, and there's two that I like. And one of them is about 185 miles long. It's not the Mark Hahn, you know, it's 185 miles, but no fuel stops. And the second one is what I calculated to be 500 miles. And I was way off on that one. It actually turned out to be about 440 miles, even, 440 miles. And I threw up an event, and this is the event I had up here, and that was called That Damn Tennessee Ride. And the reason why I called it That Damn Tennessee Ride was because we started at the base of the Old Hickory Dam, which is just outside my house. I live on Old Hickory Lake, and there's a dam about 2 miles down the water from me. Well, walking through the dam, okay, I didn't really want to do that at first, and so I found the launch ramp right on the other side, because there's a launch ramp before and there's one on the other side. And the map was, or the route was, to start at the foot of the dam, of Old Hickory Dam, full throttle all the way to Cheatham Dam, which is about 65, I'm using round numbers here, but about 65 miles all the way to Cheatham, or to the Cheatham Dam, which is just north of Ashland City. You lock through Cheatham Dam, and you ride all the way up into Barkley Lake to the top of Land Between the Lakes in Kentucky, cross through the isthmus, go all the way down the Tennessee River to Paris Landing. And with this ride, this was an event. And this is an event page. Obviously, it's scheduled for today. It's not happening, and I'll get to it in a second. But at Paris, we initially, the plan for the ride was to stay the night, and the next morning, wake up early and head back. All right, and do the route all the way back. So it would be 440 miles. But something in my head kept saying, you can do this in one day. This can be done in one day. And I'm a big fan of the idea of how far can you go with as much gas as you can carry. And I've been toying with this idea for a while now. And earlier this week, as Hurricane Laura was about to make landfall, 8 of the participants for this weekend's ride reached out and they said, we have to cancel. We got a hurricane coming at us. I can't leave my wife and kids. Totally understandable. So we canceled the event, and I said, we'll postpone it. Let's find a different day. Everyone's like, yeah, can you post it? I'm interested. I've spent a lot of money getting ready. I want to do this. So that was what happened to this event that's supposed to be happening right now. And because I knew I could do this in one day, and I was dead set, like, I know I can do this, I said, screw it, I'm going to go out. I'm going to go on my own. So Wednesday, I got everything ready. I pumped in as much gas as I could into the ski and into my auxiliary tanks and to my jerry cans. I packed all my gear up, and bright and early, Thursday morning, got up, did a little bit of work, got to the launch ramp before the sun came up, which technically you're not supposed to be there. Got everything ready, got the ski in the water, pulled it up. There's a little sandy beach. A lot of people go fishing from there. So I just pulled the ski onto the sandy beach, pulled the ski up, did a little bit, or pulled the truck up, parked it, locked everything up, walked down the ramp, did a little bit of video, and by 6:30, I was on the water going full speed. And the whole idea, I got a mosquito. Sorry, I don't know how I got in here. Yeah, I got to Cheatham Dam around 7:45, and they let me right in and tied up, and they dropped and let me lock through, and that locking process took, I think it came up to about 18 minutes. It was the fastest locking process I'd ever been through. Normally it's like a half an hour. Those guys put me through so fast, it was crazy. As soon as I came through the other side, they hit the air horn, and I was out the gate. And I started tearing. And I was like, hey man, I'm making great time. And I started blowing past cities. And I passed Clarksville, blew past Palmyra and Dover, and started knocking past all these different towns. And I had a master list of all the different fuel stops. but I'm watching my fuel. And as I'm going, I'm doing some calculus in my head. I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm holding, and I would round down just to give myself a cushion. But I'm like, okay, I'm holding 13.5 gallons in the back tank. I've got 21 gallons in the belly tank of this ski. All right, I'm doing 5.5 miles per gallon, but I'm gonna round down to 5. So I'm sitting there just doing math the whole time, which doesn't sound like a lot of fun for a lot of people. But I started getting a little too encouraged and started doing a little bit of fuzzy math, and I overshot my mileage like crazy. I'm like, oh, I think I can make it. I think I can make it. And I quickly learned that I wasn't gonna make it. So I had to limp, and I was on fumes. The ski died a couple times. I limped in, thank goodness. A guy was out on his dock with his golden retriever, and I came up to him and I'm like, hey, listen, I think I'm in a bad way. If I give you some cash, can you go fill up these jerry cans? And he goes, buddy, you got to go 150 feet around the corner and you're going to see this little resort where they got gas. I'm like, are you serious? He goes, yeah. So I put the ski in no wake mode and I idled right around the corner, pulled in, $146 later in gas, filled up the ski. Dock prices are a little high. Filled up the ski, and I was 15 miles away from my halfway point at Paris Landing. And stopped at Paris Landing real quick, do a little bit of video, and grabbed a drink out of my cooler, turned right around, and headed back. Now, the Tennessee River on that side, and I can bring up Google Map and I can show you my route if you guys are interested. But the Tennessee River, by the time I was on fumes and all the way back, that ended up being about 60 miles. And the Tennessee River, honestly, had turned into garbage when I was on it. And I'm talking about 3 to 4 foot cross-blown chop because the winds and the storm clouds are already starting to roll in. And I was pounding that ski at full throttle with, of course, about 130 pounds of gas on the transom. I was beating the crap out of that ski. And I started thinking, I'm like, this is like racing the freaking Catalina race. Catalina, by the way, is 54 miles long, if you do it right. I've always done it in like 56 or 57 miles because I always go wide or do something dumb. I've always added miles to my Catalina race. I think I've had one really good follow the tracking straight race where I only had like 55 miles. But anyhow, as the crow flies. So anyways, just making my way up the Tennessee River was just really, really brutal back into Kentucky. Once I got to the isthmus, it leveled out. It got a little rough once it opened up into Barkley Lake, but you got to get all the way over. And the trick to the whole thing is, quite honestly, and I normally never do this, is ride following the navigational buoys. If you just follow the nav buoys, because there's lots of little islands and sandbars on the Barkley side of the Tennessee River, or Barkley Lake, I should say, of Barkley Lake. There's lots of sandbars and little islands, and I actually got turned around. I added about 2 miles because I was not following. To be honest, I was too busy fishing a Gatorade out of my little side cooler and trying to get it open while keeping the throttle pinned. And I'm sitting there trying to crack it open. I missed my turn, and I actually had to go back and turn around, and I added some miles. But then I calculated that I was going to have plenty of fuel to get back, not all the way to the dam. Well, I could make it to the dam, but I didn't want to refuel on that last leg. I wanted to refuel before I went through the dam. So I stopped at Clarksville, added another 13 gallons to the back, and didn't even bother filling up in the belly tank, and got all the way to the Cheatham Dam again. And unfortunately, I got stuck for about 45 minutes waiting for a tug and about 9 barges to be locked through. And why there was so much barge traffic, I had a ton of barge traffic, was normally the barge traffic is pretty regular, but it's not crazy. The reason why it was so crazy this day was because of everything coming up from Hurricane Laura. And they had to get all the barges out, and then they had to tie them up as fast as humanly possible because they were afraid of tropical storm winds blowing through and breaking the barges loose and beaching them or getting them caught up on the sandbars and caught up on the banks of the river. So they were hustling to get these things out moving. And here I am on just this bright green jet ski being a pest. So I had to wait for those guys to lock through. But as soon as that barge left, they locked me through. Just took like 14 minutes. Boom. As soon as as soon as they were clear, I was out the door. They tooted the air horn, let me through, and it was full throttle all the way through downtown Nashville and all the way back. In all, let's bring up. Here's my GPS, and I'm going to read through all the things here on my GPS. Trip odometer read 443.7 miles. Okay, so 444 miles. Those extra technically 3 miles was 2 miles because I wasn't paying attention. I got caught in the banks of the sandbars in Barkley Lake. That's on me, my fault. And then 1.5 miles of that was also me trying to find fuel because I miscalculated. I had a list of potential fuel stops, and I blew past them because I thought I was golden. Rule number 2, never use your spare tire unless you have a blowout. Sounds like common wisdom. I started banking on my extra fuel, and I'm like, I'll just use my jerry cans, and that'll get me all the way down. So I used my jerry cans, and all of a sudden, then I really needed extra fuel, and I no longer had my extra fuel. So always, don't talk yourself into it. Never use your spares unless you have to. And so those extra 3.5 to 4 miles were completely on me. Now, knowing what I know now, I can do that ride in 440 miles flat, and probably shave off if I don't encounter another lock like I did, with the barge in it. I could probably shave at least a half an hour, if not 45 minutes. So what we have here is trip odometer right here on front, and that says 444 miles. Take those 4 miles off, so it's a 440. Next, it says moving time, 9 hours and 19 minutes. There's not much else you can do about that. That's pretty, I'll buy that. I'm good with that. And it says stop time is 1 hour and 24 minutes. Again, I could probably cut a half an hour out of that. So in all, I'm very, very confident that this is a 10 to 10.5 hour ride. And here's the other thing, let's talk about speeds, all right? I rode a naturally aspirated 2020 Kawasaki STX 160LX. Why did I choose that ski, all right? Especially over the Sea-Doo GTI that I've got. The 160LX has the biggest gas tank of any recreation-sized personal watercraft. All right, that and 20.5 or 20.6, but 20.5 gallon tank is a huge advantage, especially over the Sea-Doo that has a 15.8 gallon tank. The Sea-Doo probably gets better fuel mileage. Top speed, about the same. I did, because I am going downstream and upstream, I was able to calculate a speed average. My top speed on the STX per the GPS was 60.1 miles per hour, but that was going downstream, okay? Going upstream, I was averaging 57, about 57.5, 57.7, All right, so average those together, and you're looking at 58 and change. All right, high 58s. So the GTI SE 170, I've never GPSed over 57 miles per hour, just with me on it. And that, you figure, that's about this, it's pretty close, a mile and a half. All right, in a drag race, that makes a difference. But really when it comes over actually, in a drag race, that top speed is really not going to make that much of a difference. It's really over a long distance. You're going to see that pull away. So the STX really proved itself to be the weapon of choice for this one, especially because of that gas tank. Number two was getting into the auxiliary fuel system. And I want to talk about that in a little more detail. I might actually take the phone with me and walk out into the backyard and show you briefly of what how I've got it set up. But I have a surprise for all you guys watching and are interested in a similar system. But let's get back to the GPS. So my max speed going downstream was 60.1. All right. By the way, that was almost fully loaded. So figure that one out. My moving average was 59, or excuse me, 49. Wow. Was 49 moving average, because I had to slow down to get around some barges and there was some boat traffic. And that drops you pretty quickly. That, and when I was nursing the thing on fumes, that killed my moving average. But I was in the 50s because of that, but right now my moving average read 47.6. Not ideal, but again, there were some mistakes. There were mistakes that were made. My overall average was 41.4. I can do a lot better than that. That again, it is what it is, but I know I can do a lot better, having explained to all of you the mistakes that I had made. So this route is easily replicable. All right, there's no crazy turns, there's no crazy navigation. My navigation setup, honestly, it was the most simple you could ever imagine. I had suction cup mounts attached to both mirrors. I wasn't using my mirrors. And then the suction cup mounts were also double zip tied to the mirrors. And on my left-hand side was my Garmin GPS that I've had since like 2008. Just put some fresh batteries in it, and that I was using that primarily for tracking. I would bring up pages, I'd scroll through the page to see where I was navigationally, but believe it or not, it wasn't half as detailed as I was. You guys are gonna die. I had my phone attached to a phone holder that was also zip tied to, the phone holder attaches to the phone pretty good, and I had a waterproof case on it. But then I had zip ties holding that to the phone holder, and the phone holder zip tied to, I was the king of zip ties yesterday. Oh boy. But had the zip ties holding on the suction cup mount just in case as well. And I had that phone on Apple Maps, showing in detail the topography of my route. And I use that phone, I would probably check into that phone every 4 to 5 minutes. I'd scroll in, I'd change my location, and track myself. And Apple Maps proved to be really, really helpful. Randy Cabrera at Florida Ski Riders was howling at me, you got to use the Wave app. I haven't even downloaded it yet. It's on me. I probably should. And I know there's a million other apps out there, so I'm up for any suggestions. The one app I had downloaded and totally forgot to use was the Relive map, or Relive app, because that does a little course and it shows your whole course. And I wanted to do that as evidence of what we did. And I realized I wasn't using it when I pulled into the Cheatham Dam. I'm like, holy crap, I totally forgot to turn this on. So it was a little too late for that one. but I'll do it again next time I do this. But anyhow, yeah, my navigation setup. I mean, I had redundant systems. I had a GPS, I had my Garmin GPS, and then I had my phone. And also, a really great thing about the 160LX is that it has a USB port in the glove box, and I just got a long iPhone plug, and I kept my phone charged the entire time. After a while, I mean, I was playing music when it was really smooth, but even at wide open throttle, I could barely hear the music. You know, at 58 miles an hour, maybe you could hear like a little bit of the drums or maybe a little bit of guitar, but it was like just noise. So on my way back, I just turned off the music. I was bored with it, and I'm like, I'm not hearing anything anyway. So I just turned it off. Do what you want. I mean, it's your choice. But I don't think I would care if it had sound systems or not again. It just wasn't really worth it. Let's see. What other attributes? Okay, so the STX has a couple little quirks that needed to be addressed. First and foremost, even without 135 pounds or 140 pounds of fuel on the back, the center of gravity is a lot higher on the STX by about 2 inches than the previous hull. And that means that at lower speeds, it hasn't found, at like 30 miles an hour, it hasn't really found its center. It hasn't found its keel. So it'll roll. And that isn't a big deal when you're going 58 miles an hour, even with all the fuel in the back. But deep water reboarding with all that fuel in the back, I nearly rolled the ski over twice. Jumping off to take care of business. I'd have to reboard. And I honestly felt like I was like an Arctic seal trying to flop my way across the fuel tank onto the seat and get back in the position. Because I was trying to get as low as I could, because the higher I was trying to get over the gas tank, the more the ski would roll over. So it's that was a little difficult. And then the other problem is the ski. If there ever was a ski on this planet that needed trim control, it's going to be the STX. Because, boy, when it's fully loaded in the back, you have to stand as far over, you have to double over the handlebars just to get the nose to settle down, because you will porpoise 100 and something feet. It will just porpoise like crazy. That was one of the hardest things. If it's smooth water, roll into the acceleration. Don't yank on it, because if you yank on it, it'll cavitate and it'll just do this until it finally evens out. If it's rough, full throttle and get your face over the freaking hood as fast as you can, because it just will porpoise and it'll rattle your teeth loose. It's just rough. So this ride, I'm considering making it. I want to invite a bunch of people to go do a 1-day 440-mile lap. I don't know how many of the guys who want to do that damn Tennessee ride would be down to doing 440 miles in 1 day. I'm down to do it again, because I know I can do it better. And because I know I can do it better, I think there's a bunch of people who are like, I want to do it with you. But I don't know how many would. If you guys are interested, it'd be free, because it's not going to be an official event. It's just going to be like, join Kevin to do 440 miles on the Tennessee River, on the Cumberland and Tennessee River. And I'll create another event page. It's going to be like in October. So it might be a little cooler, which is good, because cooler air, colder water temperatures, ski's going to run a little better. I don't care if I have to wear a long sleeve rash guard and even a full wetsuit, as long as I know the ski's going to hold up. Because colder water, I mean, obviously you don't want frigid water, but colder water keeps the engine cooler. It runs more efficiently. So that's the idea. But if you are interested and joining me in doing 440 miles again, I will do it again. I'll do it until Kawasaki takes the damn ski out of my hands, because I want to really fine tune this ride. It's a lot of fun, beautiful scenery. In October, the leaves are all going to change, so it's going to be gorgeous. And man, I think it'd be a lot of fun. So if you want to do it, leave a comment. Comment here and say, count me in. And then I'll create an event page, and I'll actually comment on this later. I won't make the event page today, but I'll do it again. Because I think this would be bitchin'. I think this could turn into a really fun race. I think it'd be fun to do a race. The only problem is the locks, because you go through a lock once, at least once. I'm thinking about adding a second one. I'm thinking about starting at the top of Old Hickory, and at 6 a.m., we're in the water, and we lock through, and in the lock, I'll do the riders meeting, which I think would be kind of fun. Just everyone's tied up. I'll stand up, say, okay, here are the rules. Here's what we're doing. Make sure your phones are all synced. Riders meeting. And then as soon as you pass the no wake zone outside of the dam, game on, go. And we're all going to drag race to Cheatham. And we're all going to meet up at Cheatham. This was your sprint. And then the race really starts outside on the other end of Cheatham Dam. And there's going to be a turnboat at at Paris Landing. We'll have a guy there on the water, in a boat or on a ski or in a dinghy, I don't care. And he's going to write down every number or every ski and make sure that all 10 or all 15 or all 50 or however many people want to do it, they all lap around him. Now you can stop and get gas at Paris if you want, but you got to go around them. You got to be counted. And then you just turn back around and we all meet at Cheatham again. We lock through, and then we all go to Old Hickory and we lock through, and then we'll have dinner that night, here in Hendersonville. It's a nice town, lots of neat restaurants. So that's kind of the idea for a future race. That's kind of what I have in my mind, is making that damn Tennessee ride that damn Tennessee race, or the damn Tennessee 440 or something like that. That's the idea. So again, if you think you want to do this, let me know, because I'm so down to do it again. So let's talk about the ski and let's talk about the setup. All right. So again, bone stock, zero modified STX 160LX, wide open throttle. I mean, I was pinned. I got video of me literally sitting on the bars like this with my left hand, giving my right hand a brake, holding it wide open, just going like this. Because there are parts where it's absolute glass. And I mean glass. Like you could look down in the water, and if you had a straight razor, you could shave. It was so smooth. Here's the catch. It's the South. And guess what the South has? Bugs. And it also has rain, but thankfully I didn't encounter any rain. But I did bring a full face mask and goggles to protect my face if we're ever going through rain. This sunburned face is also a wind burn. I'm not gonna lie, I'm bright red. I'm normally red anyway, but this is even worse. And this is primarily from wind burn and sunburn. And I was putting on sunscreen. I put on sunscreen 3 times, and it was just trashing me. But I'll tell you what I did have. When I test rode the Fish Pro, Sea-Doo gave me a handful of these Hoo-Rags. And the Hoo-Rags are nice. They're elastic. They're very, very comfortable. And they just slip over your whole head. They go over like this. I typically pull it up a little high in the back, cover your nose, and then you put your sunglasses on, and you're super protected, breathes really nice, and I'll tell you what, I was being blasted by bugs. Just bugs all over the place. And that protected my face really well. Now, mind you, my sunglasses were so obscured that I literally pulled them off, and I, with my left hand, got on the gas, right hand went over to the pisser, you know, the hot water coming out of the engine, and tried to wash the bugs off my sunglasses on when it was smooth, just trying to get the glasses clean. I didn't let up. I'm like, I still want to go full throttle, and was trying to wash them off and rubbing them on my shirt and my forehead's all covered in these stupid things. And my vest was gross, and my rash guard was gross, but I can show you the front of the ski. It's really disgusting. Just the bugs you'll go through. And they're little gnats. They're not like big dragonflies and beetles hitting you. They're just little tiny things. I'm literally not going to talk about what new Sea-Doos are coming out. I literally will not. Because I like being invited to ride these. So, sorry, Petros. You're not getting a word out of me. So anyways, I did do an article on what to expect for 2021. Go back and read that one. There's more hints in there than people have picked up on. I'm not lying. There's a lot of hints in there. So anyhow, that was this little guy. I mean, this is a new one. The other one I used is in the washing machine right now. Absolutely a lifesaver, especially when it came to the bug situation. Being windburned, I probably would have worn that again. I almost will probably keep it on the entire ride next time I do it, because A, they're really comfortable, B, my face hurts because of sunburn and windburn. Let's see. GoPro cameras, I had three cameras. I had my Insta360, which the mount was giving me fits, and in one of my reboarding, I actually broke the mount. The camera was fine, and the camera pole is fine, but the little motorcycle handlebar mount that I had around the back handrail broke, so I didn't even get any 360 footage. I was just too busy getting it done to monkey with that camera. Plus, it's one of the least user-friendly cameras I've got. My two GoPros, sadly, my really good GoPro 8, this is such a rookie mistake. I put in the front bin, not in my dry bag, and in bouncing around, which was so dumb, even though it's in a protective case, it turned on and it recorded like 30 minutes of blackness just getting bounced around inside of the front bin, and wore out the car, or filled up the card with nothing. So I had to end up using a little hero session for most of my footage. I had that on a forehead mount, I had a little mouth mount, and then I had various other mounts. Does BRP acknowledge the carbon seal issue? Will they change it? That's a good question. Petros, I'll tell you this one. About a year and a half ago, I wrote an article about debunking myths about the carbon seal. And that was primarily addressing carbon seal failures prior to 2015/16. In 2015, they changed who their suppliers were. And they started having material problems. The actual material wasn't as good as the previous supplier. And they tried tweaking the recipe, and they tried tweaking the materials, and they just haven't been as good as they were prior to the material, or prior to the supplier change in 2000. I think the change happened in 2014, 2015. Because the rash of failures really got bad around that time. In that article, the debunking myths, I put an addendum paragraph. I did it this week, addressing some of the changes, that have been detrimental. in changing manufacturing from Canada to Mexico, there's been alignment issues and there's been material supply issues. I have talked to Sea-Doo. In fact, at the last press event that was in Texas last year, I brought it up. And the engineers were defiant. They were defiant. They're like, there's no problem. There's no problem. And I said, what do you mean there's no problem? They're like, works great. There's no problem. And one of the guys said, well, I have a ski boat. He was talking about one of the Sea-Doo boats with the same carbon seal since like 2005 or 2006 or whenever it was. And he goes, and it's got like 100, however many hundreds of hours on it. And I go, yeah, that's fine. They weren't failing back then. But they're failing now. And that's when he explained, he goes, well, we've had some teething issues. They were trying to be very diplomatic about this. And that's fine, I understand. We've had some teething issues with parts suppliers and manufacturing and just making sure that the manufacturing is correct. They're still having failures. Now, everyone's saying, why don't they just go to a sealed bearing like Kawasaki and Yamaha? I've asked that as well. And one person over a few drinks very quietly said, well, there's a lot of money tied up in the patent. And they need to get basically they either need to run the patent out. Basically they need to get their money out of the patent. Meanwhile, people are having trouble. So they're not going to issue a recall. What they're trying to do is they're trying to address perfecting the carbon seal itself. I can't speak on behalf of BRP in regards to this. I only know what they tell me, and I'm the media, for God's sakes, and they definitely don't want to air their dirty laundry to me because I will talk about it. And they're going to keep their cards close to the vest when it comes to that. So, sorry, I don't have a good answer for you. They're going to put out whatever information they feel is going to best represent their product. And me saying, hey, these things failed and this thing went bad and the Mexican, the Mexican part supplier or product supplier, did a bad job. They're not going to talk about that kind of stuff. So, and it's all how the sausage is made. I mean, for goodness sakes, think about automotive manufacturing. Think about car manufacturers. Okay, let's say, for example, here's a good example. All right, I'm a Dodge guy. I run a Dodge magazine. I know all about the Dodge stuff. So Dodge just issued a recall. Is the Yamaha design protected by a patent? That is a good question, and I don't know. And here's what's interesting, though, is that the design is pretty similar to Kawasaki. So does Kawasaki pay Yamaha? Does Yamaha pay Kawasaki? Who owns the patent? I don't know. Or is there enough differences that they are separate and Kawi has theirs and Kawi has theirs and Yamaha has theirs, and everyone walks their side of the street. They will keep closing sales. Yamaha had a hell of a year. All right, last year and a half. Don't get me wrong. Everyone but Kawasaki had reduced manufacturing for 2020. Kawi's out of Lincoln, Nebraska. Lincoln, Nebraska was like, keep making them. Who cares? Keep that factory open. Okay? Lincoln, Nebraska did not have a COVID-19 shutdown. So, but Georgia did. All right? Noonan, Georgia did. And of course, Juarez, Mexico did too. Now, Noonan was down for like 6 or 7 weeks. But when, I'm going to get back to the Dodge thing. But Noonan, when Noonan opened back up again, they were retooled for 2021. They said, well, what the hell, we're down, so let's just be ready to rock. And so they started cranking out 2021s. In fact, they're doing it right now. And they're I don't know how much of a percentage they're gone up over 2019's production numbers, but even Kawasaki's doing is producing more units this year, just because of demand. Sea-Doo, when Sea-Doo got shut down, they also retooled, or got in the process of it. But when they opened back up, they started knocking out units that were going to be unchanged for 2021. The big thing that got out was like the GTX 170 was completely unchanged except for 2 cowling covers were black instead of gray or some minor thing. And the stickers had been updated, but big deal, stickers and recasting some plastic parts. And everyone got all excited. They're like, oh, the 2021s are out. And you're like, dude, it's the same. Chill out. And they're like, well, listen, we just want to make sure our dealers have something to sell. There's dealers out there who look like they just moved into their building. I mean, they're totally barren. They're out of units. So Sea-Doo was trying to crank out as fast as they could too. Here's the problem. I have a lot of friends who live in Central America, and Guatemala, Honduras, and Costa Rica, and so I'm friends with them on Facebook, and so they put up a lot of international news and things like that. And I'm reading these regional and these Central American news posts that they're putting up. They're sharing news the same way we would share news. And apparently the COVID shutdowns are really bad in Mexico, like super duper bad. And Jamie, no, the storm. We had some rain. We had some thunder and lightning last night. It's drizzling outside. We're fine. We're fine. Anyhow, at least for now, I don't. They're giving out a flood warning, but I'm not on the river, so I'm good. Aces. Anyhow, the COVID thing got really bad again in Mexico. And my understanding is that Juarez had to shut down production again. And that's going to take a bite out of Sea-Doo's productions. I don't know how bad that's going to hurt their numbers. I don't know if they're going to be like, we're just going to keep producing, or we're just going to add a third shift or whatever. Because I can't imagine BRP just going, well, it is what it is. We're just not going to produce. There's blood in the water. Those sharks are going to swim. All right. They're pretty savvy dudes. For what it's worth, the guys at Sea-Doos are not dopes. They're going to, there's demand. And again, what they're coming to the table with for next year is pretty damn exciting. So, the aftermarket guys who have their hands on the new units, they're texting us going, dude, this is pretty badass. Like, we're excited. So, take that for what it's worth. Anyways. So yeah, Sea-Doo had another shutdown. I don't know for how long. I think it was a lot shorter than the first one. But they got the pedal to the floor trying to knock these things out. And there's a lot to be excited about. So anyways, that's kind of what's cooking. So let's talk about suppliers. I'm way off the Honda Polaris. Will they get it on the train? Honda will be the last one if they do. My understanding is Polaris is waiting for the election. I'm not lying. From what I've heard, Polaris is waiting for the election. And if everything goes the way they're hoping, without being political, if everything goes the way they're hoping, they feel that demand is only going to go higher. They feel that people are going to be more enthusiastic to spend money, that there's going to be more tax breaks, there's going to be more incentivizing for all business, I should say, and more domestic manufacturing and more jobs in the U.S., and Polaris being an American company. My understanding is that there is a prototype. I have not seen it. I honestly, hand to God, I have not seen it. There's a lot of speculation about what engine they're going to run. My understanding is, I shouldn't say belief, but my understanding is they're going after the VX, like the 110 horsepower VX. They're going after the low-hanging fruit. Low-hanging fruit is the GTIs and the VXs, and the STX for that matter. So Polaris is going to go there first. I don't think they've got a hull, well, they might have an engine, but more options on the market. That's the hope. Competition brings out the best. But that is, if everything goes according to plan, I might be going out to Polaris in 13 months or 12 months. Who knows? If that happens, I've heard so much talk. I've just heard so much talk. I haven't been sent any emails, but I have had boating manufacturer guys go, "Hey, you ever been to Polaris's test lake?" "No." "Why?" And they're like, "You might be going next year." "Why?" "Oh, I don't know." That's the kind of crap that I get. I get these stupid decipher, Da Vinci Code freaking text messages. So that's the kind of crap that I get. And these idiots are sending me this stuff, all the time. So that's what that's the kind of crap I get. Anyways, let's see. Okay, the Dodge recall manufacturer thing. Okay, so why I bring this up is just earlier this month, Dodge issued a recall for their 9-speed front-wheel drive transmission. All right. Dodge doesn't make that transmission. It's not made in Auburn Hills, in Michigan, all right, or in Detroit or anything like that. It's made by a German company called ZF, all right. So Dodge pays ZF to make a transmission for them, and ZF pays local manufacturers to supply them with, the clutch band, or the carbon clutch bands and the seals and all the other parts that go into a transmission. ZF, yes, ZF. Zeta F. Z, where Americans are the ones who say Z. It's Zeta everywhere else. But ZF makes that 9-speed transmission in Germany. Actually, I think it's Austria. No, it's German. Well, maybe they make it in Austria. Anyway, doesn't matter. But the recall in regards to the transmission is on all vehicles with this front-wheel drive ZF transmission. ZF put out a press release saying one of our parts suppliers had a bad run of these carbon bands, and these bands are burning up, and so we have to replace these 500,000 transmissions with these faulty bands in them, BANDS bands. And here's the service recommendation and recall. If you have this car, please bring it in. A Dodge technician will replace all the carbon bands in this transmission with the new replacement bands. Okay, so that's the recall. That's what the recall is. And that's because the parts supplier ends up having a problem. And so my understanding is, and this is not gospel doctrine because Sea-Doo or BRP have not released any sort of official press release regarding it. This is just barroom talk is that they have, ever since Bain Capital, when Bain Capital bought BRP in 2013, but Dodge still looks bad. Dodge looks bitchin', dude. Dude. They have a 707 horsepower truck. We've got a 700 horsepower all-wheel drive Durango that does four-wheel drive burnouts. They've got Dodge Challengers that pull the wheels off the ground and run 9 seconds in the quarter mile. A Hellcat Dodge Charger with drag slicks run 1080s in the quarter mile. It's a 4-door, seats 5 people with full leather interior. Screw you. I'm saying Dodge takes the right. Oh yeah, sorry. Sorry. I thought you were trolling me. Screw you. Yeah. Well, yeah, it ends up on Dodge. I understand. And the same way that the parts supplier for the carbon seal did a wonky job, it reflects poorly on Sea-Doo. And that's what happens. Okay, here's a good example. Kawasaki. Kawasaki's STX right now is having a major problem. And the Kawasaki STX, the plastic hood hinge and the backing plate for the hood are made really thin. Yeah, you're exactly right, Steven. Steven, you're right. The backing plate and the hood hinge for the STX is cast really thin. And what's happening is that if you're too rough with it, opening it up or closing it, it can actually stress that backing plate and crack it and break it, okay? And worse yet, a lot of guys who are going offshore and really just like submerging it or hitting rough waves, there's a lip on the front of the STX. It looks like this. And water is hitting the top of that lip and it's stressing that backing plate. And enough stress is going to tear that plastic off and rip that hood right off, okay? There's a lot of people who are losing their hoods. And it's because of that backing plate and the hinge. My own test unit that they sent the magazine came to me cracked. And I had to replace it before I did this ride. So Kawasaki is way aware. They are super aware that they have a problem with the hood. And they're addressing it. Are they going to send out a press release and go, oh my gosh, we're losing our hoods? They're not going to send that because it doesn't look good for the company. All right? So the company wants to protect their brand and they want to protect what their product looks like. And for people who aren't aware that things are going bad or things are not going bad. I shouldn't say that at all. That's not true. But that there's a potential for failure in that hood, better speak, marketing speak, they're going to address it on their own. They're not going to air their dirty laundry, okay? And Sea-Doo is very aware of everything with the carbon seal. They are aware of it, okay? They read these comments. Guess what? Chances are someone from Sea-Doo is watching this video right now. And they're writing down notes going, stupid Kevin is talking about this crap. Shut him up. All right? And I'm trying to be political about it. I'm trying to be diplomatic. And I'm trying to be encouraging. Obviously, the best ways to maintain your carbon seal is to follow all the things that they outline in the owner's manual. Okay? Jumping waves and beaching it are the two fastest ways to cause premature failure. All right? Number one, number two. And I talk about it in that article. Guys, go to the Watercraft Journal, look up the article, just type in carbon seal into the search function, and that article is going to come up. Okay? And I'm addressing the two most common ways they fail. All right? By jumping them, because it's not meant to take that kind of stress when you land and it's all torque. You're torquing out the drive. And also the rubber mounts on the engine do flex, they do move, and that can cause misalignment. Number two is running it up on the beach or running it into a shallow area and getting sand, sand, debris, whatever. You notice it's getting dark outside? Storm clouds are coming in. Yep. Oh boy, gonna get some rain. But getting anything impregnated into there. Oh, look at you. Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate you sharing that. And that if you get sand in there, and that billet steel hat, that little metal hat, it looks like a trumpet, that makes contact with the carbon surface. Imagine if it's full of sand or it's full of rocks, and that thing's spinning at 8,000 RPM. Woo! That's going to eat that thing alive. All right. So again, that's what the article's mainly about. Now I put the addendum in talking about, listen, there's been some manufacturing problems. Pay attention. Pay attention to your carbon seal. Open up your seats, look down. If you start seeing a lot of carbon dust and that kind of line in there, pay attention. Be on top of your service. Just be a dutiful owner, okay? It doesn't cost you anything to spend a couple minutes a day or after a ride in cleaning up and paying attention to stuff. Also, don't run your ski out of the water, like on your trailer or on a stand for very long. 30 seconds. 30 seconds is all it takes to clean out your water box. You don't need to sit there for 5 minutes and wring it out. Don't do that. You want to know why? Because there's no water cooling that carbon seal. There's no way for it to cool itself. So now you're just baking that because it's just friction. All right? It's just burning it up. So don't do that either. All right? Wow, it's getting really dark out there. Holy crap. Maybe we might get some crazy weather. Anyway, so that's the rain. Okay. So anyways, let's talk about the fuel setup, and I think we're going to end this one because I honestly believe that I've been talking for over an hour and 20 minutes. Oh yeah, I've been talking way too long. It did go dark quick, yeah. Let me close this, and I don't want to watch me. Okay, good. Here's the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Get us over 10,000 subscribers this weekend. Come on, I'm less than 100 people away from 10,000 subscriptions. Please, if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. Anyways, so what's the fuel setup that I have on the back of the ski? Believe it or not, I'm actually really excited to tease something, and hopefully you guys will be really stoked about it. Gasoline tanks, I don't care what it is. It could be a 747, it could be a GoPed, all right? Or a go-kart or a moped. Why did I say GoPed? A moped, all right? Gasoline tanks have two kinds of ventilation systems, all right? And I don't have anything to visualize what I need. Shoot. All right, sorry. Thought I had something I could use to be an example. A gasoline tank is a sealed container, all right? And as fuel is pulled out of that sealed container, air needs to replace that lost volume, all right? Otherwise, if it's a weak tank, it's going to compress and fold in on itself. If it's a steel tank, it actually might oil can and actually might start to compress. But what will happen is that the fuel system won't be strong enough to pull the fuel out, all right? So a gas tank needs to vent, all right? And it's called mechanical vacuum. When mechanical vacuum is created by pulling fuel out, air needs to be pulled in. Oh yeah, it's really raining right now. Air needs to come in to. There's a storm line coming through. Oh yeah. Air needs to come in to replace that lost volume. Okay, so a lot of engineers talk about a closed loop and an open loop ventilation system for a gas tank. All right, an open loop, or not loop, a closed circuit or an open circuit. Excuse me. An open circuit or a closed circuit. An open circuit is like all Kawasaki and all Yamaha gas tanks. If you guys who own Yamahas or own Kawasaki's, it does not matter if it's naturally aspirated, doesn't matter if it's supercharged. The gas tank has basically 3 openings. All right? It has the big fuel fill 2-inch tube that runs down from your, from your gas cap. It's got the locked on fuel pump or fuel line that runs to feed the engine. And then it's got a little 1-inch nipple that sticks up with a rubber hose that runs off of it. Okay? That fuel nipple typically has a zip tie around it because it's never going to, well, it would if it was out in this heat. But very rarely is there enough pressure to pop it off because vacuum is what is holding it on. Okay? But that 1-inch little fuel nipple that pops up is where air is coming in to replace the outgoing fuel. All right? So let's just pretend the engine was running on a stand and and you pulled that hose off. You could put your finger on there and you'd feel vacuum. You go, and it'd suck your finger on. Yeah, there's a check valve. Okay. The check valve is for rollovers. All right? It's a one-way check valve. Like the Kawasaki one is literally an inline little check valve, and you can blow on it and no air will go through, but if you suck on it, air will go through it. All right. Yamaha goes into basically a moisture separator, and it also has a little check valve, and that's a rollover valve. So in case the ski rolls over, that fuel won't go pissing out of there either. Okay. So there you go. And interestingly enough, that open circuit can be, how do I say this? Let's say this nicely. Can be interrupted very easily and used to siphon feed an auxiliary gas tank. All right. But having the right auxiliary gas tank is paramount. There's a lot of guys, in fact, we did a tutorial 4 years ago or 5 years ago on installing an auxiliary gas tank on a Kawasaki. And the guy had to drill and mount a one-way vent check valve and silicone it on. And other guys are just cheap and they'll just crack the gas cap so air can come in. That's not recommended because you have fuel spillage and it's not sanitary. It's just not a sanitary setup. What has happened is that in the last 4 months, I've been working really hard in developing a comprehensive kit for all open circuit personal watercraft. All right. I've been working with a rack manufacturer. I've been working with a marine grade tank manufacturer. And I've created, through the Watercraft Journal, a 9-piece comprehensive auxiliary tank setup that's universal. It will fit all 20-gallon tank Kawasaki's, STX, new STX, old STX with the small tank, and all Ultras, going back to 07. Okay? So all Ultras, supercharged or naturally aspirated, and all STXs going, 4-stroke STXs, that goes back to 2003, 2004. Fits all Cowies. It fits all HO, SHO, and SVHO. The tank is Coast Guard approved. Yes. The tank is U.S. Coast Guard approved. And it's a sealed system. It has 9 parts, including 4 ratchet straps and 2 zip ties. This kit is being all set up. I'm in the 3rd round of trial testing. In fact, my second prototype rack will be showing up today or tomorrow. In fact, UPS said it should be here today, but we'll see. And it's gonna be ugly. I won't show pictures of it. It's not even painted. But this whole kit, well, let me talk about applications. So all 4-stroke Cowies. So STX from 04 up, Ultras 07 up. All right. Yamahas. Every Yamaha with an 18.5 gallon tank. The new 2021s, I don't know yet. The modified, it should. Oh, it should. But the new VXs, I haven't tested yet because I don't have my hands on one. And I didn't have my measurements for our universal rack when I went to the 2021 review. I don't think you guys could get mad at me for that one. You know, I had a lot of irons in the fire. But all current, now let me talk to Sea-Doo. I'm going to talk about Sea-Doos in a second. All current FXs, previous VXs, VX also includes GP, and the SHOs, the old SHOs, because it doesn't matter. The gas tank's the same. Gas tank all has that breather. And the only difference between Cowie and Cowie and Yamaha is that Yamaha has its breather plumbed into the fuel pickup, but it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything. And it works and it interrupts the siphon thing. Sea-Doo is different. Sea-Doo has a closed circuit ventilation system. What that means is that there is no breather valve off the tank or the pickup. It ventilates through the gas cap. And that gas cap has been around since 2011. On the GTIs and RXPs, and on the full-size T3s, going back to the original T3s in 09 and across the board in 2010. When all the 2010s went to that hard-mounted snap, you know, that locking gas cap out on the side, which was the same on the IS units, which were first introduced in 09, and then to a fixed deck in 2010, they all have a ventilated gas cap. Prior to that, so like the RX, TX, 255, all the 255s, you know, before they went to 260, so 09 down, they had a ventilated open circuit vent system for the gas tank. My kit will work for those. Why it's a problem with current Sea-Doos to basically 2010 is because the kit would effectively have to add another $200 in product. The Link rack, or we have a rack that will work with the Link system. The problem is it won't siphon fuel. And I've been messing, in fact, I've been using the GTI that I've got to try to like fit parts and try to monkey the system. Right now I'm looking at manufacturing my own gas cap that's a sealed gas cap and then replacing the entire fuel fill with a bunged fuel fill line, and that is 100% not Coast Guard legal. Like, at all. Like, no way. So, and I don't want anyone to drill into their gas tank. I don't want anyone to have to mess with, there's zero, with my kit, there is zero cutting or drilling. It is 100% removable. It is 100% permanent. It's replaceable. In fact, I am right now so fast at installing the kit on the Cowie that it takes me about 6.5 minutes to install it. I timed myself because I'm an idiot. Is supposed to come on. You know what? The Yamaha situation with that is a little sticky. The Sea-Doo, I haven't measured it out. I haven't had that kind of problem. But I'll tell you what, I've had about, well, it's a 15.8 gallon tank, and I've had just over 4 gallons left in the tank when the alarm comes on. So it's not a third, but it's over a quarter. So take that for what it's worth. Now here's where it gets a little interesting. When the first 2019 FXs came out, everyone was complaining about the fuel alarm coming on too soon. And when that first started happening, I reached out to Yamaha, and Yamaha said, well, if you want to know, it's kind of intentional, and it's kind of a lawyer move, and you know, quite frankly, too many idiots are getting caught out in the water without any gas, and so we bumped it up so that they get their butt back into shore. And it's just kind of a, you know, it's one of those things like why they have instructions on the back of the shampoo bottle. It's just like, because people are stupid and we need to do that. Now, they've actually issued a recall saying, believe it or not, there's actually a recall in the PCM. The PCM is alerting too early. Plug in your software with this update, and it's gonna back off the early warning. And instead of replacing parts, because I know there's a bunch of guys who are like, just pull it off, pull out the fuel float and bend the arm, and you'll be good. That's kind of a band-aid, but I'm going way over. This should have only been an hour long. I apologize, guys. But now they're issuing a recall, and the recall warning went out to all the dealers saying, hey, listen, you need to update the software, and the software is going to back it down a little bit. So anyhow, that's kind of the news for right now. So let's talk about the fuel system a little bit more, and then I'm going to log off. The fuel system, again, is a zero cutting, zero drilling, almost toolless installation. It's a 9-piece installation, and we are going to have that kit ready for the units that I talked about. So again, I'll reiterate, all 18.5 gallon tank Yamahas, all 20.5 gallon tank Kawasaki's, and all STX Kawasaki's. And then most, and it should work for all, most Sea-Doos prior to 2010. And we'll have that written out on the list. This kit will be available for purchase through the Watercraft Journal and through our partner, Cool PWC Stuff, who are helping us in developing the rack, and it's their rack, as a complete kit that I've engineered with all sorts of dutiful warnings saying that we are not liable for you not installing this correctly. If you install it correctly, it will work right. If you don't, you're responsible for blowing yourself up or hurting your ski. but it works, and I used it for 444 miles yesterday without a problem. And there's a couple little instructions when it comes to refueling, like out on the water, things like that. If you're in an emergency situation, don't fill up the auxiliary tank, fill up the factory gas tank, even though it's harder to reach, because it works by siphon. And if there's no fuel in the gas tank, the air in the gas tank is not going to, it's not going to siphon fuel out of the auxiliary tank. You have to have gas in the factory gas tank. Okay, that's a basic no duh, but I'll have it written out for dumb people. Because I'm a jerk and I call you dumb. Sorry, I'm not meaning to be a jerk about it. But this kit will be available in time for Christmas. So like the first few days or first week of December, we will have a big announcement out, and there will be a video accompanied how to install it, and with the final version of the rack. We're very, very excited about the rack. And now that it's dumping rain, I'm not going to go out and walk around the ski. I've teased pictures of what my prototypes have looked like. I've gone through like 5 different gas cans. We're working with a manufacturer that makes a marine grade U.S. Coast Guard gas tank that is perfect for our setup, and everything all works together. Comes with corrosion-proof ratchet straps, no bungee cords or anything like that. And it is going to retail in the $600 area, but it's all comprehensive and takes less than 10 minutes to install. So China will say, yeah, they will probably, well, I'm not worried about China. I'm worried about some yahoo in the forum who's like, I'm going to make mine out of PVC plastic, and I'm going to plumb it using rubber hose that's not fuel line, and it's going to sit there and cavitate. And they're like, this thing doesn't work at all. Kevin's full of crap. I'm like, no, because I'm using -3 fuel line, high pressure fuel line, even though it's not a pressurized fuel system. All right, it's overbuilt. So what you're paying for is something that my fat ass can climb up and over on the back of a ski, all right, so it doesn't move, that I can go 440 miles sucking over 85 gallons of fuel through it and shaking the garbage out of it on, at 60 miles an hour in 4-foot chop. So this ride yesterday was proof of concept of my fuel system, and it will be through the Watercraft Journal. So again, guys, I've been talking for way too long. I'm exhausted, I'm sunburned, and I just want to take a nap. I'll answer. The rack only costs $450. Yeah, Jamie. There's a lot of guys out there who got really nice racks. They're all powder coated and cherry pie, and they're putting sure cans in there, and they're having to stop and refuel somewhere. This system holds 13.5 gallons of gas and automatically siphons and feeds your gas tank. You will suck 13.5 gallons of gas through it before you see the fuel gauge move. Oh, hey, by the way, my system has a fuel gauge in it. Wait till the details come out on it. So I'm going to tease the crap out of it. I haven't come up with a name yet. I have some fun ones. They're just kind of cheeky and kind of punny. But anyway, guys, I'm going to let it go. I'm wiped out. So I think I've answered everyone's questions. China, let's see here. I will go for it. Yeah, okay. Could you not add a fuel pump and a switch? It gets way outside of what I want to offer. It's meant to be super brainless, all right? I don't want anyone without any... I mean, I hate to say it, there's not a lot of people who are really mechanically inclined. There just isn't. And if I start telling them how to plumb or how to wire a fuel system and how to interrupt the fuel line or how to integrate that, it's just way. Will it work on an RX TX 300? No, not in its current form. Because what I have to do to an RX, let's say you have a 2019 RX TX 300. Here's what needs to happen. I need to replace your gas cap with a sealed, non-vented gas cap. Then, they did that on Dangerous Waters, and they burned the pumps. Don't get me started on those guys. We have to replace the gas cap. We have to replace your 2-foot, 2-inch vented, your 2-inch fill fuel line with a fuel line in 18. Same thing. There's no difference. With that fuel fill hose, you ever pulled the cover off and looked at it? Big 2-inch fuel fill, elbow joint, dog leg. I have to create my own fuel fill line that has a bung in it that you plumb into. Then, if you want to take it out, let's say you say, I don't need this stupid rack. I don't need 13.5 gallons. Okay, so you take the rack off. You pull your 10 feet, which is 10 feet of -3 fuel line out. Pull all that out. Then you got to go back into the front of your ski, remove the gas cap that I've given you in the kit, put your factory gas cap back on, including a little chain tether on it, because it has a little chain tether. All right. And then you got to take the fuel fill line out, which, by the way, on an RX TX or any ST3, you know how you access that fuel line? You got to take the center tub out. How do you take the center tub out? You have to take the whole top of your ski off, take the tub out, then access your fuel fill line, put the replacement one in there. Okay, so now you're into the project for 10 hours. You understand what I'm saying? It's a massive pain in the butt. Now, I have thought of, and this was my cheat way of doing it, was what if I just manufacture out of billet aluminum a sealed gas cap with a vent line out of it and run the fuel line out of the top of the gas cap? You know what happens? You cut off your fuel line because you can't put the top of your ski on. All right, the whole top of your ski literally pinches your fuel line. Unless you want to drill a hole out. And then you're running the fuel line all through the side of your footwells. I don't want to run a fuel line in anyone's footwells. So unfortunately, I can't make a kit for the Sea-Doo for those 12 years of Sea-Doos. And it's going to go on in perpetuity like that. All right? Sell the Sea-Doo and buy an FX. I'm not going to get into that conversation. So unfortunately, you Sea-Doo guys, you're kind of boned because they have a closed circuit vent system. And you have to mechanically drill a hole. I mean, it's a monster. Dude, it's a monster trying to fix that. And I can't do it. Especially with the ST3s. The ST3 fill line you can't access without taking the tub out. And because it's got that filler neck directly in between the driver's legs. I'm sorry. I'm still working on it. I'm still prototyping. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm trying to find a better way. But the Cowie guys, the Yamaha guys, and the Sea-Doos from 2009 down, or 2009 down, I got you guys covered. So that's really what's coming out. I've been talking for so damn long. What are we looking at? We're looking at an hour and a half? Okay, I'm done. Guys, thanks again for tuning in. If you're interested in doing the ride, let me know. It's a one-time. Now, there's guys who have manufactured their own siphon kit for the Sea-Doo, and that's great. It works. I've seen a lot of really trick versions. But yeah, dude, not for what I'm trying to do. I wish, yeah. Yeah, I wish I had a kit that was brainless like this one. The one I've got is super brainless. I mean, a 60-year-old lady with no mechanical experience can go, oh, well, I'll just watch Kevin's video. Here's how I snake the fuel fill through, and then take the zip tie off, pull the line off, put mine on, done. So yeah, because my system actually acts as my system is a ventilated system and is rollover safe. And yeah, sorry, Andy. I wish I could help you on that one. I'm still working on it. I'm dogged like that. I'll still work on it. I swear. So, anyways, yeah, honestly, the idea is for people with zero mechanical ability to be able to follow the instructions and be like, this thing took me 15 minutes just by watching the video. All right. All right. Well, that's all I got for now. Thanks again, guys. I appreciate you tuning in. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the newsletter. If you like what I do, buy a t-shirt. Anyway, thanks again. Guys, have a safe weekend. We'll talk to you soon.